first thing, guys, is we have our x coordinate, and when we're writing the tangent line, we got to find this point that it goes through. We got to find, to write the equation line, we need the x coordinate, the y coordinate, not to be looking at our phone, and then the slope at that point. So if we know x is equal to 1, to find y, we're just going to plug in f of 1. So we get 3 minus 1 over 1 divided by 1 plus 6. 1 over 1 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. It's 5. I guess I was already doing my math in my head. 6, which equals 1/3. Yes? So the coordinate point that we're dealing with is 1 comma 1/3. All right? So I find it, and then I kind of forget about it. Now, if you found the slope first, that's perfectly fine. But I usually like to kind of just get at least the hard part, or the easy part, out of the way. The next thing we need to do is we need to find the slope at that point. So I need to basically find f prime of 1. So to find f prime of 1, let's first tackle what is exactly f prime. So f prime of x is going to be the derivative of this function. Now I am going to, you guys have the quotient right there, so I'm not going to rewrite this for work's sake purposes. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start doing the derivative of this, at least in my head, and then for the ones that I can't show, I'm going to kind of work that to the side. But for the g of x, that's rather simple. The derivative of that is just 1. Would you guys agree with me? Okay. So we're going to have derivative of my g of x, which is going to be 1, times my f of x, which is 3 minus 1 over x. Then that's minus. Now, since I notice there's another binomial, I'm just going to make sure I use my brackets. Times my derivative of my numerator times derivative denominator times my numerator times derivative of my numerator. Now, this one you might have to just kind of do on the side. Now, you notice the constant doesn't really matter, but we're taking really the derivative of d over dx of 3 minus 1 over x. Well, I could really rewrite that, guys, as 3 minus x to the negative first. Would you guys agree? So when I take the derivative of this, derivative of a constant just goes to 0, and I'm left with 1 times x to the negative second, which is really equal to 1 over x squared. Would everybody agree with me on that? Okay? Yes? Well, I haven't put it in there yet. But it'd be negative 1 over x squared. Are you talking about what? This?
This is the derivative.
Yeah, so the derivative, negative times negative, though, it turns to a positive. Because you're taking the negative 1, bringing it down, so you're multiplying it. So negative times, okay. So that's the derivative of my numerator. Now, I couldn't do that in my head. I wanted to write that down on the side. That's fine. It's just kind of like side work. It's not really, I'm not setting anything equal to it. That was one. I could have done it in my head, but I wanted to make sure I did my work correctly, so I just wrote it out to the side. That's perfectly fine. So I have 1 over x squared is my derivative of my numerator. So that's going to be 1 over x squared, and then times my denominator, which is going to be x plus 5. And that's all over x plus 5 squared. Now, the nice thing about a problem like this, guys, is are we trying to simplify this in the most simplified form? No, all we're trying to do is just find out what f prime of 1 is. So this is the derivative. It's not simplified, but that's the derivative. We're done. We just don't need to simplify anymore. Now we just need to evaluate for f of 1. So let's just plug in 1. So 1 here, we don't really need that, so we'll just do 3 minus 1 over 1 minus, again, I'm going to use my brackets, 1 over 1 squared. I could keep the 1 here. Times 1 plus 5 all over 1 plus 5 squared. Right? We don't need to algebraically simplify this where we took the derivative. The quotient rule, once you plug that in, is the derivative. But I just need to simplify this. So 1 over 1 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Minus 1 over 1 squared is 1. So that's going to be minus 1 minus 5. 1 plus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Are you guys following? Are you guys following? Actually, I'm not going to write this. I'm going to write the equation line right there. Are you guys following, again, my use of parentheses and brackets? I'm telling you, people make mistakes. I make mistakes with this. Just make sure you're using that parentheses. You're distributing the negative to the 1 and the negative to the 5. So ends up what we have in the numerator here is negative 1 minus 1 or 2 minus 1 is 1, and then minus 5, what do we get? Negative 6, negative 4? Yes, no, maybe so. Negative 4 over 36, which can be reduced to negative 1/9. So we can say, well, that's not really good, but, all right, well, but I'll write f prime of 1 is equal to negative 1/9. Now let's write the equation of the line. We know the equation of the line, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We know the x coordinate, we know the y coordinate. They're right here, x and y, and we now know m. So it's y minus 1/3 equals negative 1/9 times x minus 1. And there's your equation. It was like a masterpiece.